Warning: this show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewers' discretion is advised. This show may contain strong language and sensitive or controversial topics. We are not attorneys and are not providing legal advice. The views and conversations are our own thoughts and feelings, and therefore, purely speculation.
The entertainment world and beyond.
Skywalker air miles feeding on a surface, gliding on water, constricted and conflicted.
Welcome to Purely Speculation, a show that exposes the harmful effects of the criminal legal system. I'm your host, Heather Lewis, the Executive Director of the Reuniting Family Bail Fund and practitioner of participatory defense. On this show, you'll learn about the unspoken horrors of the criminal justice system and meet fierce allies and advocates. We will make the best of our traumatic experiences. We will get angry. We may even cry. We most certainly going to laugh. But one thing's for sure, we're going to keep it real. Welcome to Purely Speculation.
When it free my sins and let them loose, they was killing me. I got a scar to prove, got me paralyzed. I could even barely move. Out the way I took the pain again.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to episode 5 of Purely Speculation, Court Watchers edition. We have our diehard court watchers. We've got Scotty and Taria here. Our lineup was a little backwards and last minute. You know, we always get to thinking, how do we want to end the show? And I know we end the show with the what the fuck moment, which is, a little, off the radar a little bit. But we wanted to start with a messed up case and end with a positive case. So Scotty was on with us a few weeks ago, maybe last month, maybe the month before last, when we were talking about Robert Fisher. And we were looking for, so we had his trial and we were looking for his sentencing hearing. And the next thing that we knew, we saw it in the newspaper that Robert Fisher was sentenced to life in prison. And so I started emailing folks like, hey, like, when did that happen? Like, we didn't see the hearing notice for the sentencing hearing. And the public defenders got back to me and said, oh, you had to scroll down. It was on page 3. Now, Robert Fisher's docket is 80 pages long. This is a 40-year-old case. And traditionally, the most recent, and Taria and Scotty, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but just my understanding of looking at dockets, this is where you usually find the most up-to-date information is the first page. That's where all the, next hearings are supposed to be. So I didn't think to scroll past page 1 or maybe page 2, certainly not to page 3 or 4, considering it's an 80-page docket, that's where the sentencing hearing was listed, the date. So am I mistaken with, being surprised that this was on page 3 of his docket and not on the first page? Do you guys have any other experiences to where you would find the most up-to-date hearings and such?
Yes, it would definitely be. It should have been on page 1. But as we all know, they don't do things the way that would help the defendant. Just like there was no one to speak for him at his trial. There was no one to say that giving this man another life sentence, that he's already served 2 life sentences, and how they can jiggle the law. And like I always say, they break the law to make the law to give him a 3rd life sentence. Mm-hmm. So it's not a surprise to me that it would be on page 3 or that it was even listed.
Right. That's
not listed.
Yeah, I was expecting it to not be listed. That's what I was thinking. That would have been my first assumption, was like, oh, they just ain't even gonna put it on here and chalk it up to human error, right? But it was on page 3.
Right. Yeah.
And so you talked about life sentences, and as we were just kind of following up and looking at it, and we can talk about this case for years. But back when he was originally sentenced, there was a death penalty case. Am I correct? Because I didn't catch that the first go around.
Yes,
so initially he was facing the death penalty.
Right. In fact, he was given the death penalty.
Right. 3 times.
Twice.
Twice.
Twice. He was given the death penalty, and he beat both of them on appeal.
Right.
And the thing I don't understand is that they say, double jeopardy and so on and so forth. This is triple jeopardy.
Right. Quadruple
And
jeopardy.
Third 40 years. So it's usually 20 to life or whatever. And he's beat it twice. How do you give this man another life sentence?
Right.
And
like you alluded to, you know what I mean? I think it was by design. I don't think, and the presiding judge this time was Todd Eisenberg. So he probably had the most lackluster role in this case because all they did was read transcripts of all the previous cases because there were no witnesses left to testify. There was literally no one available to actually cross-examine because everything that was done in the last trial was on paper. And so I think maybe, like you said, by design that Judge Eisenberg didn't want anybody in his courtroom, didn't want anybody to have a chance to speak on Mr. Fisher's behalf, to advocate for an alternative sentence. Like you said, he's already done 42 years. You know what I mean? The laws have changed that took the death penalty off of the books as far as this case was concerned. So he wasn't even facing the death penalty anymore. And so, I mean, which life without, parole is a death sentence, you know what I mean? So let's not get that twisted that people die by incarceration because they'll never come out unless, some compassionate release or something like that comes up. But, we also know our folks in Pennsylvania aren't a fan of that either. Taria, you have any thoughts on the death penalty and how Mr. Fisher's case kind of snuck by us? At least the sentencing hearing, rather.
Yeah, I just, it's sad, just like Scotty said, double jeopardy definitely played a big part in this situation because they retried him not just one time, 2 times. They retried him 4 times on the same offense. So I don't know when enough is enough. I mean, he already did serve his time. I mean, what more can you do? I guess they just want him to die by death by incarceration. And right. They never intended to give him a fair shot of anything, because like you said, I don't understand how this time was a little different because other times it was all hung juries, and it just was appalling to me that this time 30 minutes that the jury was out and they came back with a guilty verdict. To me, I just felt like they went in with their mindset to just saying this man is guilty, he's already there. To keep there. They didn't even give him a fair chance because if you just telling me transcripts is all you have as witnesses and everybody's dead in this case, how can you go back for half an hour and just go through transcripts that fast to say this is somebody guilty? They didn't even do their homework or they didn't even do their job long enough. They just wanted to get done with the case.
Right. Get it over with.
And how could he have even gotten a fair trial when his lawyer had no one or nothing to cross-examine about what was in the transcripts? And everybody in the transcripts, except for one, has passed. And they're saying that because of they're from the first trial, that they were admissible as evidence. Okay? But why didn't you use them in the second trial if you thought that they were admissible as evidence?
Right.
Because they really weren't. But because you had 2 people who were still alive. So now that everybody's passed, then you use that to get him. I mean, he never had a fair shot. Never had a fair shot.
Right. And I think they stuck with that. And you'll see, at least our audience will see, because we know it, you know what I mean? That's why we're here trying to call it out. But, we see the trend with the DAs that, you know what I mean? They'll retry you at a sentencing hearing at any point in time along the case. They're literally retrying you and reiterating and reinforcing the fact that they believe you're guilty, regardless of what the evidence says, regardless if there's anything else to point in a different direction or to another explanation for a certain set of facts, that the DA just doesn't waver off of that. And the fact that, you know, we did not get an opportunity to say this on his behalf and put it on record, you know what I mean? I think it's just another way that they can continue to incarcerate folks. Do, like you said, break the law to make the law, do what they want to do. How does that, you know, a hearing that's supposed to be on the first page end up on the third page? You know, and it just really, you know, has us lack of trust, not believe in the system, expect to not get a fair trial with all of these things that are happening that you know what I mean, are supposed to be, they're rules that you know, guide this process, and they just kind of do whatever they want to do. That's really the reason why we have court watchers, and that's why the court watching you know, initiative is so important. So for all of you that are watching, if you're interested in being a court watcher, please hit us up. You know, like and share the page and everything, and follow us on our social media. But I mean, to be in the courtroom, like, they can tell us whatever they want to say. You know, our court reporter, your friend Taria, Carl Hessler, you know what I mean? Now we see we're in the same spaces that Carl is, but when we read his article and compare it to what we saw, it's clear that he's writing it from the court's perspective. He's not writing it objectively or even from the defendant's perspective. He's literally writing it in favor of the court process, or that particular hearing, not necessarily the court process, but he's making it seem like what they're doing is okay when actually it's breaking the law. A lot of this stuff that they do is illegal. They're trying, and I'll let you speak to this, Taria, because I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but we've got a case that we're going to court on Thursday, right? We're going to let you talk to Phil. I'll set it up a little bit, that we're going to court on Thursday for one of our family members named Phil, who has the victim has recanted, like we're seeing now with Jonathan Majors. The victim has recanted their story. There's no evidence. She doesn't want to show up there. She wasn't, like, he's got a list of charges, and the DA has not dropped it yet. They refuse to drop the case. That the defendant or the victim literally said she lied, and they're still moving. I'm sorry, I'm banging. Literally said she lied, and they're continuing forward with this case. You know what I mean? You want to speak a little bit to Phil's case without going into too much, but you know, we're going to support him on Thursday.
Yes, and I mean, and like you just said, she has tried to reach out. She dropped the active PFA. She has been trying to get into the DA's office. They won't return her call. So now they're to the point where they're saying they don't need a victim to even show up. And the crazy thing is that they know that this case isn't strong. They did offer him a deal, and then they turned around and took the deal off the table and bought something different and said that's just a final offer. So it's like kind of like his hands is tied now to either just go on Thursday to either take this deal, and that's 29 charges that he's going to take and some jail time, or take it to trial and just, you know, roll the dice. So it's like he you know, a deal they gave him about a month ago, it was dropping everything but one. And now the next deal on the table is final offer is, oh no, we want the 29 charges and take away his license to carry.
Right.
So he has no win whatsoever but to go to trial.
And
exactly.
Is they charge you with 29 charges, and they know that the jury, half of them sleep half the time, is you're going to at least get credited with at least one or two of those charges. So
yes,
that's why they pull stuff off the table when you don't agree with what they want. They want to keep you handcuffed. So if you don't to take the deal that they give you, then you're costing the county money. So now we're going to throw everything we can at you. And then they give you a document, okay, that has 700-800 pages in it. And if you don't understand what those 700 pages are, when half of them are nothing but mix over repetitive stuff, but if you don't understand the meat of that, then they got you, and they know that. and that's why they do what they do the way they do.
What document are you referring to? The discovery?
Discovery.
Or,
Exactly.
oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah,
Yeah.
Terry, has he gotten his discovery?
Yes, and so that's the good thing that Scotty came up with, that is, hit it right on the nose, that he did get his discovery the other hearing that we attended 2 weeks ago, and me and him went over it. And the crazy thing is that the discovery that he received is an incident that happened between him and this victim about a year ago prior to this incident, where they're taking that and using it like it's present, and nothing was even charged in that situation. So they're trying to even backdoor and even worse by taking information that never was reported from going through this person's phone, and she sent text messages to them from and pictures from an incident that never was reported, and now they're trying to use that as this incident to basically say it happened at the same time.
Wow. Did they try? Is there a suppression hearing?
Well, that's what his attorney is trying. This is why he told him we're not taking anything, and we're just going to go in here and try to. Right now, from my understanding, I think he was trying to get investigator on the whole situation.
Right.
Yeah,
That is so crazy.
That's fruit from the poisonous tree, and that can get the whole thing thrown out because they're using a previous, even though it wasn't reported, they're using a previous incident that this young lady said happened and using it to bolster the case for this incident.
Right.
And trying to make it like it's a double thing. This guy has a history of doing it.
Yeah.
Which you present to the jury. So whether they go for the whole ball of wax or a piece, they're still going to lock you up.
Right.
So, I mean, they always, like I say, they play ball dirty. They come at you one way and then slap you with something else.
And see, and they always ask you, at least when they're taking a plea deal, were you coerced, threatened, you know what I mean? Anything like that. And I don't understand why people say no. Like, this is a threat. Because we offered you a deal and we dropped all 28 charges and give you one charge. But now that you don't want to take the deal, we're going to put all 29 charges on the stand? Yeah, that sounds like coercion to me.
Yeah, people don't want to say that, yeah, I was threatened. You know, you threatened me with throwing me in jail if I didn't take this doggone charge. But they're so scared of going to jail or fighting, their case, that they're not going to bring that up because they think, well, if that comes off, the deal comes off the table, I'm going to jail. They know
Let me tell you,
go to court that the judge is going to side with the DA, and I'm going to wind up in jail. And that's how come they get that such a high conviction rate, is because guys cave. But if you notice, when we do go to court, there's no jury of our peers. So, we feel screwed from the beginning. We know whatever happens. There's not 12 people that look like us.
And let me tell you another bogus thing that they did that they tried to backdoor him with. Not only did they try to backdoor him with old incident, he had to give up his firearm when this happened. So now they're trying to come with this bogus situation that the firearm has multiple bodies on it. So my thing is, if a firearm has multiple bodies on it, why am I not in jail for homicide? Right. Why am I still walking the streets if you're telling me that this has multiple bodies on it?
Right. And that sounds like exactly like you were saying. Them trying to bolster their case, trying to throw all types of shit in there to confuse the jury so that they can get a conviction on. And like you said, oh no, they can prosecute this without a victim. But you don't have if the victim lied, then there's no victim. Like, she's literally saying this didn't happen. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, this isn't it. And they're still saying, okay, I don't care. You said it happened, so it happened. And I keep saying, just because the DA, excuse me, just because the DA says something doesn't mean it's true. Like, we have to understand that. People lie all the time. The DAs lie. The police lie. Part of their tactic. The police are allowed to lie. The DA is not allowed to lie, unless I'm mistaken. Is the DA allowed to lie?
If they have multiple bodies, okay, they saying that there's multiple bodies on that gun, then you must know what the bodies are. Who is it? Where is it? What happened? If that's what you're investigating, and you say there's multiple bodies on that gun, then you know who it is. You know who was killed by that gun and where they were killed by that gun. So why weren't you bringing me a warrant to lock me up for homicide?
There you go.
Exactly. And they're trying to also say that he wasn't licensed to carry at the time of this incident because of an incident that happened in 2020. But in 2020, he was justified. So they can't even use that. You know what I mean? They're trying to bring up the 220 incident, but they can't even use that because he was justified. So he never lost his gun permit after that.
Right. And let me just say this, and then we'll move on to some more positive, because I'm already sick and my head is hurting, and this is making me my head hurt even more. This is why it is so important. And we're going to drive this in y'all's head until we start to see the evidence that you all are registering to vote. This is so important because these judges, if we don't have judges up there that know the procedure, know that the DAs can't be doing this stuff, knowing the process and all of that stuff, if we can't trust our judges to manage their courtrooms and their DAs and the defense attorneys that are coming in with their shenanigans, they need to be voted out. The same way with the DA. The DA is an elected official. If we can't trust the DA to hold his people in line, where we've seen them cussing and screaming and carrying on, intimidating defendants, screaming and hollering, throwing shit at them. We've seen them lie. We've seen them call them murderers and all types of things when they've got other charges and other cases that they've got to face. We've seen them do everything ethically, morally, and legally wrong. And we have not seen anyone held accountable for any of their actions. All we see is Black and brown people going to jail. And I'm telling you, I'm calling out everybody, Black, white, Asian, all y'all, register to vote, because they doing us like that, hands down. But if you in there and they don't like you either, you don't think that shit's gonna happen to you and your loved one? We've seen Maximus Hahn. They drugged that dude, almost cussed. They drugged that dude till he was a zombie, because they knew culturally his family wasn't going to stand up and in the gap for him. We tried, but they did some backdoor shit too, right? That was one of our cases we was riding for. They drugged that dude so much that they ruled him incompetent and stuck him in a jail cell somewhere for the next 40 years.
And here's the other thing you're saying about voting and for the judges and the DA. Even more important than that is we run away when they say we have jury duty.
Come on.
We need you on jury. We need people like us. You know, they say that you're not going to get a jury of your peers because your peers scared that they're going to come after them for taxes, scared they got a warrant, scared. They cannot bring that on you if you're picked for jury duty. They cannot do that to you.
Say it again, please.
Because we need you sitting on that door in that jury box, so that if something does happen, and it don't have to be my kid, it could be your kid now, okay? But later on, it could be your kid. And you're going to say, well, why didn't this happen or why didn't that happen? Because we didn't start where you need to start. At the voting booth. When you get that doggone jury notice, go. Check it out.
And then we also need to start seeing how we can really start learning who is in charge of the jurors, because some jurors are being intimidated by other jurors and coerced to going against their own will and making a decision that they live with for the rest of their life. Because I know a juror that is really having a hard time with his stuff right now. He's willing to speak up. He's willing to come forward on a case that he just had put a 21-year-old away for life because him and another guy stood tall for hours, and all the other jurors started to kind of badger them. Right. And so basically changing their decision. And his brother told him, you don't do that. You stand tall. You don't fold, and you tell them, you know what, we just can't get it right. It's going to be a hung jury, and let somebody else figure it out.
Absolutely.
And then he also told them from the gate when they picked him, he told the people, the prosecution and the defense attorneys, that I really don't want to be on this jury because my brother just came home from doing life, and my brother just did 30 years, and I don't want to see another black man go to jail. So I don't think I would be a good pick. And they kept anyway against his own morals and understanding. And now he's having nightmares because he put a young black man away. You don't even know if it was the right decision or not.
Right. And see, that's the trauma. When we talk about trauma, that's the expanse of this fucking system. Like, come on, people. Like, you it's like animals. You know what I mean? It's just like rabid fucking dogs. Like, you can't just stand up for justice. Like, if that's what it is, then that's what it is. Like, why are you badgering this man to send a black man to prison for life? Like, if that's his choice, let it be his choice. Y'all, yeah, we went round and round and round. We discussed it. Yeah, no, I can't see it. And let it be that. But no, you're going to intimidate this man. And now this man is traumatized. Like, you know what I mean? It just never ends. It never ends. And they don't care not one bit about how it makes other people feel. And I'm not saying it just happens to black folks on the jury, right? I'm sure they all go home traumatized. One, from having to sit through that trial and listen to all those details, but then to have to make a decision about the life of another human being. You know what I mean? But then, like you said, then you get the nuances of where this person didn't really believe or wasn't convinced fully that this is what happened, and then have to live with that, right or wrong. You know what I mean?
Well, it wasn't fair either. It wasn't fair because we know for a fact that Asian woman was let go on a deliberation after days of her sitting in the trial, and on like 2 days in deliberation. And by the time third day came, she said she didn't understand the trial, and they just said, "Okay, we're going to alternate you out." So I understand if this man is saying to you from the beginning, I can't be on the jury because I'm not going to make a right decision. I can't make a right decision. I don't want to make that decision because I just had a loved one that's come home from life. That should have been respected, and he should have been taken off.
Right. So you're absolutely right, Rhea. When we've been at this for a minute or trying to get at it, is who controls that jury, who controls that type of information, because we know that there's ethics and laws, guiding that and regulating that. That Asian woman shouldn't have been alternated off. My understanding is that you take the alternate because of medical reason, like you're sick and you can't, finish your requirements. She could have finished had they taken the time and explain whatever they answer her questions. They didn't want to do that, so they they kicked her off because they knew where she was going.
Yeah, see, that's up to the foreman. That's up to the foreman, okay, to submit that to the judge, okay? And then what happens is if it's nothing that the judge wants, the judge says, "Oh, okay, we'll take it up in appeal." Like, yeah, we're gonna find you guilty, but hey, that's one of your appeal rights.
But if you know, the judge said he didn't never have it done in all the years he's been on the bench, so he never had to use alternate. He said he's on the bench over 30 years, and he never had a situation happen where he ever had to use an alternate. And to be honest, it was illegal tactic done with that whole situation because after that juror said that, should have segregated that jury room, not allowed nobody to go home, put them in a hotel room, and they came back and deliberated on Monday. They allowed them to go home, be out for the weekend, and then bring a person that was in the streets already, that probably heard the whole case, probably looked up the case, and you come back after 2 days, 2.5 days, on two clients, two defendants, and you only get in there for a half an hour and you come back to work. So that's no read up because he's sure that they can start the case all over again.
Yep. Hey, Josh. Yeah, it's just crazy. And you brought up something else, Scotty, that you just mentioned, the foreman. The foreman doesn't rotate. Like, the foreman is with the judge, right? That's his dude. So
when they pick 12, they pick a foreman out of that 12. Each jury.
Oh, you talking about the jury? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about the crier because the crier
Right.
is always with the judge.
Right.
So,
Yeah. But
so the foreman makes the decision whether or not they're going to swap out a juror.
no, he makes the decision whether it's worth going to the judge with it. And a lot of times, if he feels as though it's going to mess up how long they're going to be there and what they have to go through, he won't do it.
Right.
He won't do it. And anytime, like this woman, after 2 days on a 3-day trial, you're going to put somebody else in, you know that's not right, because they're not going to have the full effect.
Right.
Not at all. Not at all.
We're going to keep pressuring and keeping the pressure on that particular system and our people, everyone that and folks that think that they're formerly incarcerated, that they're felons, that they lose their right to vote. You absolutely do not lose your right to vote. You do not lose your right to vote in Pennsylvania. So please register and start voting. Your local elections are absolutely important. They determine who your local district judges are. They determine who your state representatives are. And then they also in turn become our court of common pleas and our DAs and all these other things. So it starts at the community, your local level. Josh, you're 18 now, get registered to vote. If you haven't done already, we're gonna make sure you get registered to vote. That's my nephew. Shout out to Josh, who's he's gonna be a new voter registration person. So we're gonna make sure
you register to vote in jail. If you have less than 12 months, okay, you can register to vote in jail.
And you can vote from in jail also. You can vote while you're incarcerated. If you have not been convicted yet, you can vote while you're in jail.
Yeah.
So these are all these things, that the lies that they tell you on your way out, on your way in, whatever it is that you're doing, we're here to dispel and debunk all them bullshit myths that they trying to, keep our people down. If voting, and then we'll move on. If voting wasn't so critical and important, they would not be doing all of the things that they're doing to try to suppress your vote, redistricting and telling people they can't give you water while you're standing in long ass lines and all this other stuff. I mean, that stuff is extreme in the southern states, but it's not to say that it's not creeping in up here too when they're trying to change how we vote and when we can vote. They don't want you to mail in your ballot. They don't want you to do it too early. They don't want you to do it after this time. It's all bullshit. We have to start pushing back. And before my head explodes, we are going to move on to something positive. I had the joy. Taria's filed some juvenile cases. Scotty's filed some juvenile cases. This one particular juvenile case that I followed. And I'm going to give a shout out to Judge Garrett Page right now, right here. Please keep this man in your prayers. He is doing his job. And just like we just bashed all those systems that we spoke of before, he is the reason why that our kids, he's interrupting the school to prison pipeline. And his colleagues and those powers that be, those behind the scenes folks, are trying to set him up so that he is no longer in that position. He is in a powerful position to stop the incarceration of our young people, that they are losing their minds. And so when I say this case came to us, it was a tragic, tragic accident. And initially, when this case came to us, the young man was 13 years old. His mother sent him to the car to retrieve her firearm. He came in waving it, playing, accidentally shot and killed his sister. Tragic, tragic, tragic. There's nothing, ain't no amount of jail time ever in this world is going to bring his sister back or erase from his memory what happened that day. With all that being said, they initially were trying him as an adult at 13. He was held at the juvenile detention center, but they didn't know how, which has 48 beds, 36 of which are on lockdown. And they didn't know what to do. So once he got decertified, they still weren't sure. They set his bail at $200,000. Let me say that. $200,000, a 13-year-old kid, they gave him $200,000 for accidentally shooting his sister. And then, so, they're so like up in arms, not knowing what to do with themselves, that once they decertified him, which means they were going to try him as a juvenile, they still held him on adult supervision. Make that make sense. He's not an adult. He's a child. Why do you have him on adult supervision? Who knows? Because I had to go to the prison and sign the paperwork when we posted his bail. You know what I mean? So it was a 10%. So it was $20,000. We figured it all out and got this young man free. If we did not post that bail, he would have been sitting in that juvenile detention center until his case went to trial. They worked it all out. Long story short, they worked out a plea deal, this, that, and the third. He never just, served a day in jail. He had supervision. He had mandated therapies, all the supports. He's living with his aunt and uncle. He's doing well. He had his first round of check-in once the actual case was resolved and the sentence was final. He was still on supervision. He came back. So this is probably like 9 months after the case had been sentenced or disposed of, that they were coming back to have him, the academy, the probation officers, all of his supports, everybody except for the DA was in agreement to allow this young man to come off of all supervision of the county, right? No probation, no parole, no have mandated therapy, even though he's choosing and making efforts and his family's doing all that. He's excelled in all of his classes. The DA, when I said earlier, they will retry you at every given moment that they can. The DA in this hearing to release this young man from supervision, she proceeded to say again, he wasn't playing. He pointed the gun like this, and he did this, and he did that, and this was a violent case, and da. We've been agreeable all this way, but we want to keep him on supervision. Bitch, why? That's what the judge wanted to say, but he's a God-fearing man. He was sitting on the bench, so he said, ho, 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 ho. Slow down, take a breath. We're gonna talk about this. And then he addressed the young man and checked in with him about how he's doing, what he's doing, what his plans are for the future. He wants to go to college. He has plans for his life. He's grown like 5 or 6 inches since we saw him for last. About to have his 16th birthday, and just wanted to keep him on supervision. And the judge was like, there's no amount of supervision that's going to erase what he's done. Accidentally, on purpose, not, you cannot erase that. So what you're doing is saying that you just want to keep him here because you want to keep your thumb or your foot on his neck. And so he didn't say all that. That's me paraphrasing. But you know what I mean? I'm sitting here like this, and I sat in a spot where I know he would see me. And I'm sitting up here praying, like rocking back, because I'm listening to this lady and I'm getting mad. And I'm like, if somebody don't shut this lady up, like she's traumatizing him all over again. We talked about trauma. For him to have to sit here and listen to this lady tell him what he did all over again in such a graphic manner and demeaning manner, like you ain't going home. You know what I mean? It's just like, how do you get to do that? And so I'm glad that Judge Page stepped in and stopped that abuse. And ultimately, he decided that this young man was not going to be on supervision, that he was going to trust his family and trust this young man and trust his community, because we're his community too. We've been there from day one. We've been rocking with him, rocking with the family, holding him down, and been at every court case, every hearing, anything that we could be at, to make sure that they knew that he had people standing behind him and alongside of him. And that was a glorious day. I'm telling you, they were so happy. He was so happy. And I mean, he can be as happy as he can be, right? We know people that, they get a deal of a lifetime and they're still not happy because the trauma of the situation still lingers. Like he you know what I mean? He's going to struggle with this for his entire life. He will never, ever, ever forget it. You know what I mean? But to give him some semblance, and I always talk about how the DAs treat, their defendants, and it's like, you're going to tear this person to shreds, put them in a cage, and expect them to knit themselves back together in a way that when they come out, they're a model citizen. When you done ripped them to shreds, put them in a cage, didn't give them needle nor thread nor antibiotic, nothing to help them heal and become a human being again, to come out on the outside. Like, make this make sense. Like, and I'm angry and I'm trying to make this a positive thing, but it just pissed me off that that's what she did. Like, and it made me want to choose violence that day. But the outcome was better than me choosing violence. And so that young man has his freedom unencumbered. He can move about the country. He can live his life and do the best that he can in honor of his sister. That's what I told him. I said, live your life so that your sister would be proud. You know what I mean? Like, you can't bring her back, but live your life so that she would be proud of you. How would she like you to see you live your life? You know what I mean? And so, again, just kudos to Judge Page that he recognized what was going on in that moment. And that's why I said that we have to hold our other judges accountable, that they recognize what's going on in that moment and stop these DAs from traumatizing and abusing defendants because it's foul. And then they look at people all crazy because they're fucked up and they go to jail and they come home and expect them to be better. And you ain't give them shit to be better. So, rant over. Sorry.
No, you are absolutely right. They wanted to keep him under their thumb till he's 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
5 years. 5 years.
Or 21. I mean, don't they have until 21?
Well, and
21 is what it was going to be because they gave him 7 years probation.
Yeah, and they want to be in control because they figure the longer they have you on parole, then what they can do is you're going to mess up. The better chance they have of bringing you back. See, right. That's the thing. Give me the enough space that I'm going to let you hang yourself. And for any small infraction, they'll bring you back and put you back in jail. And then once the recidivism level is so doggone high because you're a little picky only little things that you come around picking with, anything that you can say, hey, look, you violated, and they send you back. And that's what they were trying to do to this young man. He doesn't deserve, a second chance. So if we can give him long enough, something will happen. And that's what they were on. And Judge Page said, not in my courtroom, you
not today.
Well, not even just that. We have to take accountability that this young man is only going on 16 years old, and he's still a child, and he's still a child, and he still has a boy's mind. So we already know that men don't mature as fast as women, so they're already a little step behind. So this reminds me, and I hate to watch that one episode with Law and Order, and it's from the 15-year-old boy and his two friends. Pushed the transvestite over the bridge, but they didn't need to, and how they let the two boys go on just probation, and then they put the one boy away for 7 years in a state penitentiary because his mom was a single mother and didn't have any money. And the DA reminds me how you just said that kid was so traumatized. And he already knew what he did was wrong, and he apologized to that person before he passed away. And it's just like he just went with that.
Right. So yes, we like I said, we can talk about this real quick for all of you watching. Thank you. We appreciate you. If you didn't see our guest edition 2 weeks ago, please check it out. We had Toya Smith from South Africa. He was our tour guide on Robben Island, which was a phenomenal experience. Our political prisoners, we will definitely have him back because we're not finished with that conversation. But real quickly, before we go, Scotty, do you have a what the fuck moment that you want to share with us that happened this week?
Yes, I do. What the fuck are we going to do to these people when we go and won't vote, won't take the doggone slip to be on the doggone jury? What the fuck are we going to do if we keep letting them get away with what they're getting away with because it's not my son, it's not my daughter. Right. But there will come a time, it might be your granddaughter, it might be your grandson.
Right.
We have to be accountable for our damn self and stop counting on somebody else. What the fuck are we going to do? Either you're going to stand up or you're going to lay down.
Right. Taria, you got one?
I'm just here with him. Is like, what the F are we going to do, and when are we going to just educate ourselves? Stop letting these people educate be educators for us. We got our own teachers.
That's right. And I'm gonna let y'all go with that. I think I sprinkled the whole episode. What the fuck moments? I think this cold, maybe that's it. What the fuck? This cold's not gonna leave me alone. I'm trying to get it together, and you know what I mean? I'm better. So we out here and we still doing it, you know what I mean? We're gonna keep doing it. And just like Scotty said, what the fuck are we gonna do? We're gonna leave y'all with that. What the fuck are you gonna do?
That's right.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Purely Speculation. If you learned something, share something. Please like, follow, and share this show. The more our communities know, the more they are empowered, and the faster we can create change. Purely Speculation would not be made possible without the generous support of the Community Justice Exchange, the Health Sparks Frank E. Boston Black Justice Fund, Philadelphia Foundation, and Reform Alliance. Thank you. Booyah!
Intuition different, already lived and dreamt it. Visions